In 1898, the first hotel was built on the small seaside village of Amanzimtoti. Unfortunately, it burned to the ground almost exactly 1 year later. It was promptly rebuilt and then it multiplied.
There's 250,000 people reside on the south coast, with a small percentage of those people being on the coastal strip.
When the first ever train to roll along the rails in KwaZulu-Natal left the station, it was carrying a load of sightseers from Durban Station to the soon-to-be resort town of Umkomaas. The sightseers have been coming ever since.
North Coast as well is very much, it's more of a sort of a city environment. And the South Coast is, you come down, it's very plush with trees, which you've seen, and you just feel as if you're in holiday mode.
In August 1882, Port Shepston's population exploded when the Lapland, carrying 246 Norwegian citizens, anchored off what was described as a dark and uninviting shore. Today, Port Shepston has one of the largest European expat populations on the south coast.
We have a fantastic winter climate. Our surf temperatures are 22 degrees centigrade, so you can swim throughout the entire year.
In 1921, the majority of the land surrounding Nkongweni was purchased by a man named Hugh Balance, who saw its potential as a tourist destination and changed the name to Margate. Mr. Balance could only persuade one fellow investor to partner him to secure the land. Holiday flat rentals are now one of Margate's chief sources of revenue.
They can get up to 1,500 per day in season, which is very good. And they normally 100% full over the high season.
The first ever holiday cottage on the south coast was a shack built high atop one of Port Edward's famous dunes by transport rider Edward Stafford, who was unaware of the nature of dunes. The house was soon swallowed by the sand. The holiday home soon returned, this time on firmer soil, but still looking out to sea.
I would say on a property of 1 million, you'll get 1.5 if you've got a sea view.
Always the bridesmaid is probably the best way to describe the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. It has long been seen as the less prestigious, homely sister of the north coast. Umhlanga is seen as being a better investment opportunity than Umkomaas, Ballito better than South Broom. But the truth is that Uvongo, Shelley Beach, Margate, Ramsgate, Port Shepston, Kingsburg and Amanzimtoti all reported higher than national average property price growth figures last year. Most of them outperformed their neighbours in the north. The south coast is, in fact, an extremely diverse mixture of people, natural habitats, outdoor recreation facilities and historical sites.
Funnily enough, the south coast actually started off as a large farm. It was called the Lily Kroner Farm, which then split up into a number of farms over the years. People come predominantly from the Gauteng to visit this area, and they see how busy it is, and they then come back in January and purchase a piece of land or buy a shop and set up shop. So we have a large amount of ex-Gauteng based people now living on the south coast.
The south coast has a distinctly different feel to the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. It's spread over a much longer stretch of beach, more than 200 kilometers of beachfront, and encompasses many more towns than the north. Over 25 towns are dotted along the coast, and for many of those, tourism is the primary income generator, thanks to the climate, the beaches and the golfing infrastructure.
Our main attractions would be obviously our beaches. That's the first attraction. Our secondary attractions would be golf. We have 12 golf courses in this area, which of those 12, 3 are in the top 10 in the country. We've run at 100% occupancy levels over our December time periods, which indicates we have 50,000 holiday beds in Margate alone, which is the Margate-Uvongo stretch, and that runs at 100% full over December and over April.
The South Coast is more than just scenic beaches, expansive green belts and holiday flats. The area is steeped in history and offers the inquisitive visitor a wealth of opportunities. An hour's drive out of Durban is Selborne, the first golf course in the country to be proclaimed a golfing estate way back in the 1980s. Travel just up the road from Selborne and you'll find Linton Hall. Now in its 3rd century, Linton Hall can proudly boast that out of all the properties in all the empire, King George VI chose this gracious property for convalescence in 1952. South Africa was the first country to join the Blue Flag Beach Classification Campaign in 2001. 8 SA beaches were awarded Blue Flag status in 2003, 5 of which were in the Zulu Kingdom, and 3 of those on the South Coast: Margate Main Beach, Ramsgate Beach and Marina Beach near South Broom. All of this natural beauty and history was one of the reasons the Borregio family chose to move to the South Coast. Richard Borregio, a businessman from Johannesburg, and his wife Sandy had had enough of the Johannesburg lifestyle and were looking for a place in the sun to enjoy their retirement.
I'm getting to that sort of time now that we need to retire, and we've always wanted to live down at the coast. And the choice has been either the Cape or Eastern Cape or up here in Natal, and being the closest to Johannesburg, we opted for the KwaZulu-Natal area.
Having decided to settle on the KwaZulu-Natal coast when they were scouting for a suitable home, the Borregios, like many people, started their search on the north coast, looking at places like Umhlanga and Balito.
We were shown properties in the value of 1 million up. For property worth 1 million, you can't swing a dog and a cat in the place. So with the result, looking at the northern part of Natal coast was very expensive. Hence we then started to look down South Coast, and fortunately enough we found this particular home that we're living in now. But we looked at a number of homes over a period of a week, and with looking at those homes we found that we were getting better value.
The Borregios picked up their new home at an extremely competitive rate, paying far less than they would have for a comparable property on the north coast. The 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom house sits on an 1,800 square meter plot with sea views. But it wasn't just the cost that swayed their decision in the South Coast's favor.
I think with the South Coast, it's a more of a relaxed area. Basically, as a comparison, if you look at Johannesburg and you take Sandton, it's bustly, busy. You can't move around. The money's there, wonderful, lots of nightlife, but hectic. And I think with the North Coast, it's the same thing. You've got high-rise buildings. You've got everybody arriving from Johannesburg for their holidays, becomes bustly, very busy. South Coast, more villagey, more quiet.
The Borregios aren't the only people to find the siren song of the South Side impossible to resist. The property market hasn't been this active in decades.
1 million, you'll pay up to 1 million now. You won't get anything under 500, so 500 to 1 million, depending on views and depending on everything else. That's your average stand price now. And then a unit. In a flat, you'll pay for a 2-bedroom. You're lucky if you get one at 600,000. So the average price on the size of a 2-bedroom is probably about 8-9, and then it'll be slightly less for if you haven't got a sea view.
One area where the South Coast is a little lacking compared to the North Coast is in infrastructure. The South Coast doesn't have the massive shopping centres or the entertainment complexes that the North can boast of. Although this adds to the less developed charm of the area, it can also be a negative aspect, but this is set to change in the near future.
Shelley Beach had its upgrade about a year ago. The South Coast Mall will be coming online in October this year. That's got about 120 shops, it's got 2,000 car park spaces. That's going to be the next emphasis as well. Also around the area as well, we've got 372 stands coming online, which is literally in the vicinity of that mall. So you're going to see a lot of activity in the area.
Many towns along the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal have been experiencing growth the likes of which they haven't seen since their inception. People from all over the country have been snapping up stands, townhouses, holiday flats, retirement homes and second houses. Investment and development is at an all-time high. Infrastructure is slowly getting up to standard and the beaches are of a world-class standard. All indicators point to the South Coast experiencing these levels of growth for the foreseeable future. It would appear that the property market has managed to avoid contracting Natal fever and is as active and energetic as ever.